Yo, so I was looking at different states as far as the unemployment rate goes, and I noticed that obviously California is the largest state by population. And going back on this whole chart, every single time the unemployment rate goes up more than 0.5%, so here it went from 9% to 9.3. But as far as when it goes up and it doesn't lead to a gray bar being a recession, you can see here as well from 7.8 up to 8%. And so on, right? Every single time it goes up by more than 0.5%, there's always a gray bar that appears. Same thing over here, gray bar. Same thing over here, gray bar. Same thing over here, gray bar. And here, and here. And here we have gone from a low of 3.8% up to 4.7. Now, there's more tech jobs in California, and it makes sense because tech is getting hit even harder. But typically, if you just compare it, right, and you go to unemployment rates and you overlay the Californian unemployment rate, this is typically not a very great sign, right? And I brought up this a couple of videos ago that the Californian unemployment rate had gone from 3.8 up to 4.7, and because of that, the national unemployment rate is going to follow it. And you can see every single time it curls up, it always leads to a gray bar. Every single time. The unemployment rate doesn't, like, it normally has a sustained trend, either downtrend or uptrend, right? Now, if you look at this is a tweet from Liz Ann Saunders. October household employment different from the establishment survey of non-farm payrolls, contracted by 348,000, biggest drop since April of 2020. Now, there's been so many revisions this year. I think like 8 or 8 out of 9 have been revised down. And it's pretty concerning because they're trying to make it seem like it's not worse than it actually is. Now you can go and look, if you want to look at all of the different states, you can just Google whichever state you're interested in seeing, and just search unemployment rate for any state. But again, I think California, since it has the largest population, there's a lot of tech jobs there. It's a good leading indicator as far as if you just want to look at unemployment rate alone goes. Now, in December of 2007, Q3 GDP came in at, well, I guess that came out in, that would be November, early November or something, right? Or late October came out Q3 GDP. But the real GDP was at 4.9%. Real GDP 2007 Q3. 4.9 in the third quarter of 2007. So GDP is very deceiving, and it's obviously not a leading indicator for what's to come. Now, as far as interest rates cuts goes, I've never talked about interest rates cuts, but I think they're gonna cut rates in Q1 of 2024 because I believe that the yield curve will uninvert within the next 2 to 5 months. And when the yield curve uninverts, things get really bad. Again, if you just go to a weekly chart and you look at what happens to the S&P every single time. On inversion, it's over the unemployment rate as well. Unemployment rate in blue, stock market in orange, and regular candles is the yield curve. Anything below the green horizontal line is a inversion. Inversion, re-steepening, unemployment rate in blue up, stock market down in orange. Inversion, re-steepening, stock market in orange down, unemployment rate in blue up. Inversion, re-steepening, unemployment rate in blue up and stock market in orange down. Inversion, re-steepening, unemployment rate in blue up, stock market in orange down. Inversion, re-steepening, stock market down as it normally is, and the unemployment rate is going up. So it doesn't look like this time is different. So, you factor all of these things into, and you take them into consideration. I believe we're in a recession right now, it's just we don't know about it right now. We'll know in a couple of quarters from now. So, and don't be deceived by the GDP, because again, third quarter GDP in 2007 was also very deceiving. As far as the stock market goes, again, 31 months out, after the 10-year 3-month inversion, we bottomed in 2000, or after the dot-com bubble in 2002. That was when we hit the bottom in October of 2002. And the green line is the path to trough from the 10-year 3-month inversion after the Great Financial Crisis. This was the peak in October of 2007. If we go to the 10-year 3-month, US 10-year, US 3-month, that puts you 31 months out. If you follow the path from the dot-com bubble and the Great Financial Crisis, that's in May of 2025. And that's around the time where I think the stock market likely bottoms. I believe the unemployment rate is going to go up in pretty much a vertical line all the way from now until Q3, Q4 of 2025. I think the stock market bottoms before in the summer of 2025. And I believe the first rate cut comes in Q1 of 2024. I believe the yield curve uninverts or re-steepens out of inversion, the 10-year, 2-year, within the next 2 to 5 months. So by the end of this year or beginning of next year. And as the yield curve re-steepens, that's when the stock market crashes. Made this picture right here around when S&P was 45.65. This was around July. And you can see all the things I wrote here. Inverted yield curve is the gray zone. Things are okay. Re-steepening of the yield curve is the red zone. That's when things are bad. Historically, when inflation comes down 2%, according to the Phillips curve, the unemployment rate goes up 3.6%, but with a lag. So inflation was 9.1%, and then I wrote this back in July or whatever. Let's say it's 3% next month, year over year. 3.6 times 3 equals 10.8, plus 3.6, the current unemployment rate at that point, equals 14.4% unemployment rate. That's just a guess. Trust the yield curve, your odds is 99.9% that you're going to be correct, because it's just always correct. It's a completely undefeated, flawless leading economic indicator. And it matters because when the yield curve is inverted, you could argue it's causative, because the banks don't make money since they borrow a short term and lend long term. Now, I wrote that you cannot price in a recession before it happens because it's subjective on whether it's going to be a soft landing versus hard landing. Up here, everyone thought there was going to be a soft landing. You have systemic risk. You have forced selling from unemployment rate going up. That's why the stock market crashes when unemployment rate goes up. Because people lose their jobs, they're selling stuff to repay their debt and food and shelter. There's going to be mass deleveraging, mass panic, bankruptcies, and delinquencies. I'll leave a link to this picture and this picture in the description. So it doesn't look good, and I think the unemployment rate is about to go up in a vertical line.